Before we get into this, I want you to understand something. The information you are about to hear was dismissed, ignored, and in some cases literally written off as poor peasant tradition by Western food scientists for decades. These are cooking methods Japanese grandmothers were using in the aftermath of the war, while American kitchens were being told to trust the frozen food industry. And now in 2026, food chemists, nutritionists, and culinary scientists are quietly admitting these tricks were not superstition. They were science, decades ahead of its time. Let's count them down, starting at number 25. Number 25. Salt scrub your pan before you cook in it. In post-war Japan, home cooks would heat their iron pans until smoking, throw in a handful of coarse salt, and scrub it around with a dry cloth before any cooking began. Western culinary schools called this unsanitary. Modern science calls it thermal surface conditioning. The salt crystals act as a natural abrasive that removes residue, and the heat opens the pores in the iron. After wiping and adding oil, you get a naturally non-stick surface. Heat your pan, add 2 tablespoons of coarse salt, scrub with a folded paper towel, discard, wipe clean, add oil. Nothing sticks. Number 24. Cook rice with a splash of vinegar. In the 1950s across rural Japan, cooks would add a small capful of rice vinegar to the water before cooking plain white rice. Western nutritionists said it was pointless. Just 1 teaspoon of rice vinegar per 2 cups of rice lowers the glycemic impact through a process now called starch retrogradation. The rice does not taste sour at all. What you get is fluffier rice that holds together better and is measurably gentler on your blood sugar. Modern nutrition research has quietly confirmed everything Japanese grandmothers already knew. Number 23. Soak meat in cooled green tea before cooking. In post-war Kyoto, home cooks would submerge raw pork and chicken in cooled brewed green tea for 30 minutes to 2 hours before cooking. Green tea contains tannins and polyphenols that denature surface proteins on meat, creating a barrier that retains internal moisture. The catechins also neutralize the odor compounds in pork and poultry. Brew a strong cup, let it cool, and soak your meat for at least 45 minutes. The result is noticeably juicier meat with a cleaner, brighter flavor. Number 22. Add cold water to stop a rolling boil. Across northern Japan in the post-war decades, cooks making dumplings and noodles would add a small cup of cold water to the boiling pot each time it reached a violent boil. Western guides said this was inefficient. A constant furious boil overcooks the outside of dumplings before the interior is done. Adding cold water calms the boil momentarily and lets heat distribute evenly from outside to inside. Add a 1/4 cup of cold water each time your pot reaches a rolling boil. Your gyoza and udon will cook through evenly instead of bloating on the outside. Number 21. Rub ginger on the pan before cooking fish. In coastal Japanese kitchens in the 1950s and the 1960s, cooks would rub a thick slice of fresh ginger across the entire interior of a hot pan before adding oil or fish. What this does is apply the active compounds in ginger directly to the metal. Those compounds are natural surfactants that prevent fish proteins from bonding to hot metal, which is why fish sticks so badly at home. Heat your pan until it just smokes. Rub a halved piece of ginger across the surface for 20 seconds. Then add oil. Your fish will release cleanly every single time. Number 20. Braise with the lid slightly cracked, not sealed. In post-war Japanese households, cooks braising fish, root vegetables, and simmered pork would leave the pot lid cracked at an angle rather than sealing it. American home economics guides insisted braising required a tight seal. A fully sealed lid traps too much steam and toughens muscle fibers. A fully open pot loses too much liquid. The slight crack creates what food scientists now call a partial convection zone that tenderizes collagen into gelatin far more efficiently. Leave your lid cracked by about 1/2 inch. You will get more tender results in less time. Number 19. Add a raw egg white to ground meat before mixing. Post-war Japanese cooks preparing meatballs, tsukune, and dumpling filling would mix 1 raw egg white per pound of ground meat before adding any other seasoning. Western chefs said egg whites would make the meatballs rubbery. The opposite is true. Egg white proteins form a network of elastic bonds throughout the meat mixture that traps moisture and fat during cooking, preventing the contraction that makes meatballs dry. Mix 1 egg white per pound of ground meat before adding salt, ginger, and scallions. What you get is a juicy, bouncy tsukune that holds together without any breadcrumbs. Number 18. Blanch garlic for 30 seconds before using it raw. In post-war Osaka, home cooks preparing cold dressings and dipping sauces would briefly drop peeled garlic cloves into boiling water for exactly 30 seconds, then shock them in cold water. Western nutritionists insisted raw garlic was always better. The 30-second blanch destroys the enzyme that creates harsh sulfur compounds and lingering garlic breath. The beneficial compound allicin has already formed on contact with air and stays intact. You keep the health benefits and lose the harshness. Your cold noodle sauces will taste rounder and more elegant. Number 17. Season the oil, not the food. In post-war Japanese home kitchens, cooks would add aromatics like ginger, scallion whites, and dried chili directly to cold or warm oil before it reached cooking temperature, letting them slowly infuse. Western methods said to always add ingredients to hot oil. Gradual infusion extracts fat-soluble flavor compounds far more completely than flash frying. When ginger and scallion come up in temperature with the oil, their essential oils fully dissolve into the fat. Heat your pan, add oil, then add ginger and scallion to the cold oil. Bring everything up to medium heat. Wait for the golden edges, remove the aromatics, and proceed. Every dish tastes seasoned from the foundation up. Number 16. Dissolve salt in sake before adding it to marinades. In post-war northern Japanese kitchens, cooks would mix their salt directly into the cooking sake before combining it with the rest of the marinade. Western recipes told people to mix salt with the meat directly. Salt dissolved in alcohol penetrates muscle tissue faster and more evenly than salt applied to meat surfaces. Ethanol temporarily loosens the tight protein structure of muscle fibers, so dissolved salt travels deep into the flesh within 15 minutes rather than the 2 hours needed for dry salting. Dissolve your salt in 2 tablespoons of sake first, then combine with soy sauce. 30-minute marinades will taste like they soaked overnight. Number 15. Simmer tofu in salted water before frying it. In post-war Japanese kitchens, cooks would simmer firm tofu blocks in heavily salted water for 10 to 15 minutes before any frying or braising. The salt draws excess water out of the tofu through osmosis, creating a firmer, denser texture that fries without splattering and holds its shape in a braise. Simultaneously, the heat causes the protein matrix inside the tofu to tighten and reorganize. Modern food scientists now call this secondary protein coagulation. Simmer your firm tofu in salted water for 12 minutes, drain, and pat dry before frying. Golden crispy tofu every time. Number 14. Rest cooked rice uncovered for 5 minutes. Post-war Japanese cooks would switch off the heat under the rice pot and remove the lid completely for exactly 5 minutes before serving. American cooks were taught to keep rice covered. Removing the lid allows surface moisture that accumulated as condensation on the underside of the lid to evaporate, rather than dripping back onto the rice. That condensation is what creates wet, mushy top layers. After your rice cooks, remove the lid, turn off the heat, and wait 5 minutes before fluffing. Every grain will be distinct, dry on the surface, and fully cooked through. Number 13. Smash your ginger instead of slicing it. Throughout post-war Japan, cooks preparing bone broths, dashi, and simmered fish would use the flat side of a heavy knife to smash whole ginger pieces flat before dropping them into the pot. Smashing, rather than cutting, ruptures internal cell walls across a much larger area simultaneously. releasing far more volatile aromatic oils directly into the broth than clean slices ever could. The large intact pieces also remove easily at the end. Strike your ginger firmly 3 times with the flat side of a heavy knife and drop the smashed pieces into your broth. The depth is dramatically different. Number 12. Toast raw rice in fat before adding cooking water. In post-war households across rural Japan, cooks would first toast the dry uncooked rice in a small amount of sesame oil or lard in the pot for 2 to 3 minutes before adding water. Coating raw rice grains in fat before cooking creates a thin coating around each grain that controls how quickly water is absorbed. The slower controlled hydration produces rice where each grain remains distinct because the starch on the outside is stabilized by the fat before it can swell and fuse with its neighbors. Heat: 1 teaspoon of oil, add dry rice, stir for 2 minutes, then add water and cook normally. The texture difference is astonishing. Number 11. Save the water from soaking dried mushrooms. Post-war Japanese cooks soaking dried shiitake mushrooms would never discard the dark water left behind. Western cooking guides routinely told cooks to throw this liquid away because it looked dirty. The soaking liquid contains an extraordinary concentration of natural umami compounds. Guani latte, one of these compounds, is one of the most powerful umami amplifiers known to food science, and it multiplies dramatically with the glutamates in soy sauce. Let the soaking water settle for 5 minutes, then pour it carefully into your dish, leaving sediment behind. Free flavor. Concentrate. Number 10. Dust vegetables with cornstarch before they hit the pan. In post-war Japanese restaurant kitchens, cooks would toss chopped greens in a tiny amount of cornstarch before they hit the pan. Salt applied to raw vegetables draws out moisture instantly, flooding the pan and dropping the temperature. That is why home stir-fries always steam instead of sear. A light cornstarch coating seals the surface, prevents moisture release, and lets vegetables blister rather than sweat. Toss your cut vegetables in half a teaspoon of cornstarch before they hit your hottest pan. Add soy sauce only in the final 30 seconds. Number 9. Keep a master braising sauce alive for months. In post-war Japanese kitchens, cooks kept ceramic pots containing braising liquid made from soy sauce, mirin, sugar, and spices that they replenished and reused continuously for months. Western food safety authorities called this dangerous. Each time the liquid is used to braise meat, fats, and myelard, reaction compounds migrate into it and build in concentration. The salt content prevents harmful bacterial growth, and the flavor grows more complex with every use. Replenish your braising liquid after each use with fresh soy sauce, mirin, and spices. Refrigerate between uses and bring to a full boil before each session. What you build over months, no fresh batch can replicate. Number 8. Steam fish. Plain and add the sauce only after. In post-war Japanese coastal cooking, whole steamed fish was steamed plain with only ginger and scallion inside, and hot seasoned soy sauce was poured over it at the table. Steaming fish with sauce creates a coating that restricts steam from penetrating the skin evenly, and the sugars in the sauce prematurely denature the surface proteins. Discarding the steaming liquid is equally important, because that liquid contains the fishy compounds released during cooking. Steam plain for 8 to 10 minutes, discard the liquid, then pour fresh soy sauce and smoking hot oil over the fish. The difference is immediate. Number 7. Blanch meat before the actual cooking begins. Post-war Japanese cooks preparing pork bones and chicken for any braise or soup would submerge the raw meat in cold water, bring it to a boil for 3 to 5 minutes, then drain and rinse under cold water. Western guides called this wasteful. The blanching step draws out blood, marrow residue, and coagulated proteins that would otherwise cloud your broth. By eliminating these first, you get a cleaner tasting broth without losing any flavor because the muscle protein and collagen stay intact. Start all braised and simmered meats in cold water. Boil 3 minutes, drain, rinse, and begin the recipe fresh. Number 6. Balance soy sauce with sugar in a specific ratio. In post-war Japanese cooking, cooks would add sugar to soy sauce in almost every braised and grilled dish, at a ratio of roughly 1 part sugar to 3 parts soy sauce. Sugar does not simply add sweetness. Sucrose molecules directly block bitter taste receptors on the tongue, a phenomenon called bitter masking. Soy sauce contains real bitter compounds from fermentation, and sugar suppresses them so the umami stands out cleanly. Add 1 teaspoon of sugar for every tablespoon of soy sauce in your braises and glazes. The balance transforms. Number 5. Marinate with baking soda for silky tenderness. In post-war Japanese restaurant kitchens, professional cooks would add a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda per pound of beef or pork to any marinade. Let it rest for 15 minutes, then rinse it thoroughly. Baking soda is strongly alkaline, and when applied to meat, it raises the surface pH, disrupting the ionic bonds between muscle protein filaments. High pH prevents proteins from forming the tight crosslinks that make meat tough. This is now a validated technique used across Western restaurant kitchens. Mix a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda with your meat, wait 15 minutes, rinse completely, and cook. Number 4. Cool food to room temperature under a cloth, not sealed. In post-war Japanese households, cooks always allowed cooked food to cool to room temperature under a clean, breathable cloth rather than sealing it in a container. Placing hot sealed food in a refrigerator creates a temperature differential that causes condensation inside the container. That condensation drips back onto the food, creating a wet, high humidity environment that accelerates bacterial growth even at cold temperatures. A cloth cover allows steam to escape as food cools. Allow cooked dishes to cool for no more than 2 hours under a cloth before sealing and refrigerating. Number 3. Burn a new iron pan empty before its first use. Before the first use of any new iron pan in post-war Japanese kitchens, cooks would place the bare pan over the highest flame and heat it completely empty until the entire interior turned from gray metallic to deep blue and then to matte black. The high heat burn-off combusts the protective factory coating on new pans, which contains industrial oils that are not food safe. The color change indicates that the iron has undergone thermal oxidation, forming a permanent bonded layer that becomes the foundation for natural seasoning. Every dish you cook afterward tastes cleaner. Number 2. Rest all braised dishes overnight before serving. In post-war Japanese households, cooks preparing soy braised dishes like buta no kakuni almost always cook them the day before serving. As a braised dish cools and sits overnight, the meat continues absorbing the braising liquid through osmotic diffusion. The flavors mellow and integrate as aromatic compounds bond together at cooler temperatures. A rested braise is a completely different and superior dish to one served immediately. Cook your braises the day before. Refrigerate them in the liquid. Reheat gently. What you eat the next day is unrecognizable from what came out of the pot. Number 1. The trick that grandmothers understood before food scientists did. Save the water from rinsing your rice and use it for cooking, not drinking. Across every region of post-war Japan, grandmothers would drain the first wash water from raw rice and set it aside, using this milky, starchy liquid not to drink, but specifically for cooking vegetables, making soups, and even washing their faces. This is the most comprehensively vindicated food secret on this entire list. Rice wash water from the first rinse contains a significant concentration of water-soluble B vitamins, soluble dietary fiber, and a compound called inositol that modern dermatology research has confirmed has genuine skin brightening and barrier-protecting properties. When used to cook vegetables, the light starch content thickens the liquid slightly, helping sauces cling. When used in soups, it adds a subtle body that plain water cannot provide. Food scientists have now published peer-reviewed research confirming that rice wash water contains measurable bioactive compounds with real nutritional and cosmetic applications. Collect the cloudy water from your first rice rinse. Use it as your base liquid when blanching vegetables. Use it as part of your soup stock. Japanese women in the post-war decades were doing this every single day, and they were right about every single application. Scientists are still catching up. The next time someone tells you an old cooking method is irrational, remember these 25 examples. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the kitchen science that history nearly forgot. And drop a comment telling me which of these tricks you are going to try first. I will be watching.